So good afternoon, everyone. At least it's afternoon here in Reading. A very warm welcome to Henley Business School online open day. Thank you very much for joining us today. It's genuinely a pleasure to have you with us. My name is George Alexandridis. I'm a professor at Henley Business School. And as part of one of my roles in the business school, I lead our master's program portfolio. So I work closely with our program directors and program area directors, some of which you'll have the chance to meet later on today, to design, to review, to continuously evolve our programs, and of course, just as importantly, to shape the overall student experience at Henley. So today, really, we thought we'll do this event, which is about really helping you make what is likely to be an important decision in your personal and professional journey. We all know, and you know best, this decision has never been more complex. We all completely recognize this, or more consequential, should I say, than it is today. And that's because higher education is changing, graduate careers are changing, and the world of work, of course, is being reshaped at an extraordinary speed. We have artificial intelligence, we have automation, we have data, we have digital platforms, all of these things that are already redesigning jobs and redefining skills and reshaping what employers expect from you, from graduates, from day one, I would say. And it's estimated that around 40% of core skills, of core workplace skills, will change even further within the next 5 years. And many traditional graduate roles, as you read every day in the news, are being fundamentally re-engineered and or even replaced in some cases. So when you choose a master's degree today, you're not simply choosing a subject area or a business school brand. You're choosing how future-proof your education is. You're choosing how well an institution that you're going to be studying understands change. And crucially, of course, you're choosing whether a business school is reacting to the future or even actively shaping it. And that is the theme of today's open day, leading innovation in education. And that's because Henley Business School, we believe we believe in innovation. We believe innovation in education is not just adding just a buzzword, if you like, or a newest module title or course title, but actually we see this as rethinking how we design learning and how we develop skills and how we prepare graduates for careers that are being reshaped as we speak. Now, while today is an online open day and it reflects the reality we're talking about with a lot of things being online, education is no longer defined by a single format, I would say, or a single space. And what matters is the quality, is relevance, and is insight, and whether you are able to come away with a clear understanding of who we are and how we think. And that decision, of course, of yours is also very clearly a return on investment decision. You're investing time, you're investing money, effort, and there's an opportunity cost into your future. And while financial support and scholarships, of course, matter for that decision, and we invest very heavily on those, The real question is, and what I'm going to talk about today for the next 20 minutes or so, is what sits behind the return you get. Is it just knowledge, or is it, judgment, adaptability, confidence, the ability, to keep learning as the world changes? So before you hear from our program directors and from our program area directors and from our careers advisors later today, I want to take a step back now and explain how Henley approaches education differently and why that matters in the context of the future of work, if you like. Because I think what I keep saying to all our current students and in conversations with them is that our aim, Henley Business School's aim, is not just to help you get your first job after graduation, but is to help you build the foundations for a career that, of course, is going to grow, and it also remains relevant over time. That's really our aim with our master's programs. So if I can have the next slide, please. As I mentioned, you will, of course, hear from our program area directors later today, and they will go into the specific of each individual master's program that you may be applying to, or you may have applied to or thinking of applying to. The structure, the content, I think the student journey, if you like, that is really a very program area or program specific even. So I will talk a little bit generally. So before that, I want to briefly situate, if you like, those programs, all of those programs that you see here on the screen within the wider Henley landscape. So our portfolio is structured across 5 broad program areas. We have business and management, finance, accounting, digital business, and real estate and planning in no particular order. This structure is very deliberate, and I think it reflects how disciplines are evolving, increasingly interconnected, by the way, but still requiring the depth and rigor within each field. So while programs sit within a clear academic home in those program areas, we design the programs to allow for cross-disciplinary thinking and skill development. And this year, we have had around 730 full-time students studying for a pre-experienced master, so across all of these programs that you can see here. And these are students from a wide range of academic, of cultural, of international backgrounds, if you like, and most of them at a similar career stage, although there's variations. And of course, all of them making the same strategic investment in the future that many of you are considering today. But more broadly, Henley Business School is home to around 6,000 students across all our UK-based programs, spanning undergraduate, postgraduate, executive education, doctoral study, and within the wider University of Reading community, there are approximately 25,000 students in total. And that scale, I would say, combined with our focus on quality, is what allows us to deliver a consistent and well-supported student experience across all our master's programs. If I can have the next slide, please. So at this point, I'd like to take a step back and talk about the things that genuinely make Henley different. And I mean, you can see on this slide a number of rankings and accreditations, and of course they matter. And Henley is consistently, recognized as one of the leading business schools in the UK and internationally, and you already know that. But if I'm honest, rankings on their own don't necessarily tell you, what it feels like to study somewhere, nor how well a school prepares you for the world that is changing very quickly. And the reality is that most top business schools that you might be considering can present strong rankings. But what tends to matter more, and what is often harder to see, is really what's happening behind the scenes. The decisions about how programs are designed, the values that shape how students are taught, and the way industry insight, the research and the practice come together in the classroom. And those are the things that shape the education you receive at Henley, and they influence the skills you develop and the mindset you build, and ultimately the graduate outcomes, the outcomes that our graduates achieve. And in many ways, those behind the scenes elements are also the real reason our rankings and accreditations look the way they do. So rather than focusing on these numbers themselves, I want to spend a few minutes talking through our 5 core building blocks that define the Henley approach, and explain how they translate into a distinctive, a future-focused, master's experience. If I can have the next slide, please. So the first one is about our culture and our heritage. And Henley is, as you know, the first business school in the UK. It was formed in 1945, and it was formed a very clear purpose. And that idea was to bring leaders together at a crucial moment in the country's history to rebuild the country. And it was that beginning that I would say shaped our identity, because since then, leadership became the center of our work, and it has remained there ever since. And over many decades, Henley became a pioneer in leadership education. We have built one of the strongest leadership communities in the country. And today, our leadership programs, our executive leadership programs, are ranked, in the top 5, in the top 25, in fact, globally. So, of course, you might ask, why is this relevant for me? Well, I think it matters because leadership skills, irrespective of your program of choice, are becoming essential much earlier in careers today, given all the changes we talked about. And I think 6 out of 10 most important future skills for graduates, reported by the World Economic Forum, relate directly to leadership behaviors. So because of our depth and our focus in this area, we naturally bring leadership development into the classroom. We have that tendency generally more than in other places. And the aim here for doing this is we want our students, we want you to learn these behaviors in practice and build a mindset that prepares you to be future leaders. So we have more recently redesigned part of our master's programs to deliberately develop leadership behaviors early, preparing graduates to operate within this framework, and with judgment, with responsibility, and also with influence in this fast-changing, artificial intelligence, enabled workplace that we know is out there. If I can have the next slide, please. The second building block is about another mindset, and that's equally important. That's the entrepreneurial mindset. And this, of course, is not only relevant for those that want to start a business, it is also about how people think and act in today's economy, in today's changing economy. And when you ask employers across all sectors now, they will tell you they all value things like creativity, initiative, adaptability, opportunity recognitions, and so on. So at Henley, entrepreneurship is part of our culture. And you might have noticed that our motto as a business school is bringing business where business comes to life, bringing business to life. So among other things, we are home to the Center for Entrepreneurship and the Henley Enterprise Lab, run by some of our colleagues who are leading authorities in their field. And we work very closely with founders and startups. And around 10% of our graduates go on and start ventures of their own and work in startups. And more recently, we are actively working and introducing new initiatives to actively increase that number further going into the future. So from an educational perspective, the innovation here lies in how we bring entrepreneurship in the learning into the learning experience. So our students, as part of the master's programs, they work with real founders, they test ideas in practice, they engage in initiatives such as our annual competition Idea Fest, we call it, you can search it online. And we also have something else called the Summer Startup Bootcamp, among many other activities. And we believe that in a world where career paths are no longer linear as they used to be before, the entrepreneurial mindset becomes a core graduate skill. And it's a mindset that stays with you, by the way, whatever path you choose, and it's a mindset that helps you create value rather than wait for instructions, if you like, and helps you adapt to change rather than resist it, and helps you take initiative in your career that will increasingly require more independence and creativity going forward. If you can have the next slide, please. The third building block is about how closely we work with organizations. And Henley works with more than 100 organizations through our corporate development unit, which is ranked 4th in the UK right now for executive education. But we don't call that a department for executive education. And there is a reason we use the same there's a reason we use a different name. There's a reason we use the name corporate development instead of executive education. And this is because our work with organizations is more about building capability in organizations and not just delivering training for them. So through leadership development, consulting services, executive coaching, research-based insights, and so on, we gain a very clear view of how organizations are changing. And why this matters? This matters because, according to recent research, around 80% of organizations globally are currently redesigning roles and skills due to the things that I mentioned, which is new technology, new business models, new talent needs, and so on. And because of our involvement with organizations, we see these changes directly, and we bring that insight back into other areas of the business school. It informs our master's curriculum, for example. It shapes our careers development, and it ensures that students learn things that reflect what employers actually need today. And because of this close involvement, we of course we don't observe these changes. We work inside them, and that insight we gain, as I mentioned, flows directly back into the business school and shapes our programs. Among them, of course, being our master's programs. If I can have the next slide, please. And one direct outcome of this engagement with organizations is what we call the Henley skill set. The Henley skill set was developed through the work of our World of Work Institute in Henley Business School, in close consultation with employer partners across our network. And of course, rather than starting with the academic theory alone, we started with a simple question, which is, what are the capabilities that graduates actually need to succeed in roles with new technologies, and as organizations, of course, continue to evolve. And that's where the innovation lies in this case, in designing, which is what we've done, a skills framework that sits alongside academic knowledge, and then deliberately building it into how our master's programs are taught. And if I can have the next slide, please. The Henley skill set is structured around 3 pillars, really, and that's leading self, leading with others, and leading with impact. And this brings together capabilities such as motivation and self-awareness, resilience and adaptability, as you can see here, communication, negotiation, teamwork, and empathy, and of course, analytical and creative thinking, artificial intelligence and digital literacy, and ethical, of course, and environmental leadership. And what makes this framework innovative is how we embed these capabilities. We don't treat these as generic employability workshops, if you like, running in parallel to your degree, but instead we have integrated, and we still further integrate them into our program design, into our assessment methods, into group work, into reflective activities, and of course, our professional and careers development program. So our students develop these skills through how, let's say, they analyze problems, how they work in teams, how they use data and technology, and of course, how they reflect, because that's also important, on their own development throughout the program. And this basically means that as you progress through your master's, you're not only gaining if you like, technical and disciplinary knowledge, but also actively building the behaviors and the judgment that employers increasingly look for. And especially in all roles that exist today, but especially those that don't necessarily fully yet exist. And the goal of this is very clear. It's to prepare you for careers that evolve. And I mentioned that earlier. I'll say it again. Technical knowledge will always matter, but in today's world that is completely shaped by AI, automation, and constant change everywhere, really, it is the ability to adapt, to collaborate, to apply judgment, to create impact are things that really is what we have learned time and time again are things that sustain long-term career success. And if I can have the next slide, please. And that's the final one. That's the 5th building block. If I can have the next slide, please. Which is our focus on applied intelligence. And applied intelligence is the ability to move beyond knowing concepts. We ask employers, they would say, your graduates are very knowledgeable, but move beyond this and instead use knowledge to make sound decisions and take action in real world, in complex situations. And why this matters is because recent research, again, consistently shows that while many graduates in general, they leave university with very strong technical knowledge, organizations, and our network of organizations are still telling us this, they still see a gap when it comes to being able to apply that knowledge in practice, especially in environments that is shaped by uncertainty, by data, by technology, and so on. So the innovation here is that at Henley, we design learning around application. And so students work with real data, with real cases, with real business problems drawn from contemporary organizational examples, contexts. And you, irrespective of the program of your choice, you will be asked to analyze incomplete information. For example, you will be asked to exercise judgment, to communicate recommendations. You will be asked to defend, decisions in ways that really reflect how modern business actually operates. And we find that time and time again, that this approach develops you beyond the technical competence that you need. So it builds it builds generic confidence, your decision-making capability, and really that ability that I mentioned to translate insight into action, really, and skills that become increasingly important, such as AI, for example, that we all use today, takes over routine analysis, and in the future and already right now, we need to place greater value on human judgment, and that's exactly what this is about. So when Henley graduates enter the workplace, would like to believe that they bring more than that knowledge. They bring that practical readiness, if you like, and that's the confidence to operate in that ambiguous environment and contribute from an early stage to an organization, and of course to continue learning, because learning is continuous as your roles evolve. And that emphasis on applied intelligence is the defining, I would say, feature of the Henley master's experience. And if I can have the next slide, please. So, these are the 5 building blocks that sit behind our outcomes as well. Yes, of course, numbers matter. And the fact that this year it has been 93% of our graduates are in employment or further study shortly after graduation. And many would secure roles in very reputable organizations that you can see here. And if you can move to the next slide, please. And they're typically located around the world, although, as you can see, the majority secure roles here in the UK through our various schemes and, of course, their own efforts as well. And if I can have the next slide, please. And their starting annual salaries will, in most cases, of course, as you can see here, exceed our tuition fees for the year. And salary growth over the first 3 years is among the strongest in the UK, with the most recent ranking placing us second in the UK for salary growth, in fact, which was 62% over the 3 years post-graduation. But what I would say is that, so all of these things are important, but what I would say is that what matters most is really how we get there. And we get there through what we discussed earlier, and that is through delivering these world-class programs and having a world-class career development program and team. And so hopefully today has given you a real sense of that journey. And with that, it's probably time for me to stop talking now, so we can go to answer some questions. Thank you very much for again for being here. Look forward to meeting to answer your questions and meeting any of you that decide to join Henley Business School in the future. Now there was another slide, Uruz, about what happens next as well that we ought to show, which is I know we got rid of the presentation, but we need to show that slide because it's about what happens next, how you meet your program director. I think it was after that slide. Yeah, that's it. So we have subject area student journey overviews at 12:50 to 1:30. So this is where you join the program area of your interest. They all happen simultaneously. Then we have career services insights between 1:30 and 2. So again, you select the session of your interest, and then you can chat to our own students as well at the same time. We have a live student chat room that you're able to do this, but you can also, of course, do this after this event. Now, Yuris, if you can go back to the very first slide of this presentation, I'd also like to say that my contact details are, my email address is there. Please, the reason why I put it there is don't hesitate to contact me directly. If you have any questions, I'll be able to at least direct you to the right person. But if you have any questions about our programs or applications or scholarship, whatever it might be, I'll be very happy. Or, indeed, you're finding it difficult to make your final decision, I'll be very happy to arrange a call with you or even communicate with you via email. So that's it for me. I'll wait to see if there are any questions on this more sort of generic aspect of the business school and our master's programs, and then we can move on to the more program area specific presentations by our program area directors. So Camila from Brazil is asking a question about MSc Climate Change and Sustainable Business. So Dina, who is the program area director for the finance programs, will cover this program alongside other finance programs in more detail. It sits within our finance department, although it's a more generic program, if you like, that also covers the sustainable business and climate change aspects. It is co-delivered. With our Department of Meteorology. That's one of the top in the world. And so Dina will cover this program in her presentation in a few minutes. So if you can be a little bit patient, then you can get more specific and ask Dina the questions. But about scholarships, the scholarships that we have are automatically allocated depending on your profile. We will allocate scholarships to everybody this year. We have a dedicated scholarship page at Henley Business School that you can go to. Depending on your performance at your undergraduate degree, you could be allocated anything between £2,000 and £7,000. But again, if you're considering applying and you have a question, then you're very welcome to contact me directly. But you don't have to do anything to be considered for the scholarships. You're automatically considered, and the vast majority of our students will be of the offer holders will be allocated scholarships. This year, and we have £2 million of scholarships to offer this year. So quite a few. I have a question about working opportunities during studies. Is gaining an internship a realistic opportunity? Yes, it is a very realistic opportunity, depending on the program of your choice. There are two ways to secure an internship or a placement, and those are either through your program, if you have a summer module, which is called placement and project, and many of our programs do. And if you do, then we have something called the Master's Internship Scheme, which is one of the most innovative things. But nobody else that I know does this. Effectively, we pay for your internship. So Henley Business School has a network of organizations, and they would employ you for an internship whilst they don't have to pay you for the internship, because the funding will come from the business school. I.e., when you buy a program, a master's program, you're not just funding your study, but you're also funding your internship and building in work experience into your CV. So some of the program area directors with specific programs that meet these requirements will talk to you about it later on. But the master's internship scheme that we have, and you can find, I will try to share more information here about it in the chat, is one of the most innovative things, because effectively Henley Business School in sponsoring all of these internships, and so it makes it much easier for organizations to say, we'll work with this business school, because effectively it's making it much easier for us to hire graduates from that business school, because for a 2-month period they don't have to sponsor that internship, whether you're a home student or an international student. And that, of course, alongside, depending on where you're from, many other efforts and initiatives that are aimed specifically for as many as possible of our graduates to gain work experience as part of their program, as well as shortly after completing their program. There's another question about rankings for accounting courses. Well, I think one of the issues is that there are no specific rankings for accounting courses. Most of our courses in accounting involve some financial management or finance as well. Renata will talk to you more about these programs later on, because she's the program area for the accounting courses. There's no specific ranking. That's the problem for accounting courses. There is for finance, however, and our courses have always been ranked in the top, well, in the last few years anyway, in the top 5 or 6 in the UK. And if you look at the business school related QS rankings, subject rankings for QS, Henley for the last few years has always been in the top 100 in the world as well. But the problem is there's no specific ranking for accounting programs. Internships, we covered internships, but as I mentioned, we have a number of initiatives focused specifically in internships, and the master's internship scheme has been really popular with organizations, and we have organizations subscribing on a weekly basis. Of course, some of the more established, let's say, organizations that are listed in FTSE 100 will have their own internship schemes. But we work with established organizations, with medium and small organizations around the area, around the London area, and so on. And we have more and more subscribed to the master's internship scheme. The reason being is that we sponsor the internship. And indeed, the salary is quite good as well, because it might be minimum wage, but it's in excess of £2,000 a month for the time that you're undertaking this placement. And we have a number of different partnerships as well, depending where you are in the world. We've just signed a partnership recently with a Chinese agent as well, to offer internships in the region of China, and many of our students will be able to gain access to internships around the world, and not just the UK. But the master's internship scheme, the UK master's internship scheme that we have, is focused on employers that have a base in the UK, because our students are telling us that that's exactly the point. They want to gain a work experience in the UK. So this is exactly where we're focusing on at the moment. Can you say a bit more about Idea Fest? Well, Idea Fest is a competition where our students are able to, we support our students to develop their startup ideas and to bring them to life. And in this competition, you will receive, it's a process, it's over a few days. You develop an idea and you receive real feedback from founders and also from leading authorities, our academics, who help develop a number of startups around the region and in the UK. And of course, there are winners as well, and the winners are getting some funding in order to be able that could go towards their idea. So this again brings back the notion of entrepreneurial mindset, which is about developing that mindset. And that's not only, by the way, open to our masters in entrepreneurship students, is open more widely to all our masters and undergraduate students.
There's a question about field trips. Are there any field trips organized by Hindi Business School?
So we have field trips that are organized across our program portfolio. Depending which program you are on, you will hear much more from the program directors. Some of our students go to Greece, some others go to Paris, some others go to Istanbul. Again, European destinations, but very interesting initiatives and experiences, practical experiences. That's what we are aiming for. So field trips is the international exposure, is part of all the learning design that I talked about earlier on. And yes, they're embedded within our programs. In some programs, you have the option to take a field trip, so it's not compulsory. But in some other programs, all of the students will go on the field trip. So it really depends which program you're on. But if you join the right program area pathway at 12:50 at 1 o'clock today, then the program area director will take you through the specific field trip that is related to that program. Does HBS help international students get sponsored jobs after graduating from master's programs? Well, the sponsoring, which comes from the business school, it's for our master's internship scheme. So it's during your program, not after. As I said, 93% of our students this year, according to the survey that we have run ourselves, are in jobs post-graduation. So they've been able to secure jobs. These are not, when you say sponsor this, we don't sponsor them ourselves, but of course they're jobs that are paid, as all jobs are. What we sponsor is what I mentioned earlier, which is internships during the summer period of your study for up to 2 months.
I think that's the end of our questions.
Well, that's excellent. As I said, very welcome to contact me directly if you have any questions or concerns, genuinely anything you have in mind that I can help with making the right decision for yourself. I am available and very happy to talk to you, along with my colleagues, of course, who you're going to meet very soon as part of the program presentation. So thank you for joining. It's been a pleasure talking to you and meeting you, and hopefully we'll have the chance to interact further down the road. Thank you very much.